This government is in crisis. Perma-crisis. My name's Tom Harwood and this is GB News Originals. Remember to click that subscribe button to stay completely up to date. Now, every week it seems a new disaster for the Prime Minister. After the resignation of his deputy, being forced to reshuffle his entire cabinet, and losing his Washington ambassador too, it seems that Sir Keir Starmer is a man lost at sea. Governance has become clumsy. Bad excuses, constant personnel changes, and the unmistakable chaos of U-turn after U-turn. Across Whitehall, fiasco has become routine. The Treasury is in disarray. Pre-budget planning is now being run by the rapidly promoted Torsten Bell, and the Chancellor herself looks undermined. July saw 0% GDP growthing. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Pure stagnation for the country. Perhaps that's why number 10 has begun wresting economic control from number 11. At the start of the month, the Prime Minister took on a former Bank of England Deputy Governor as his own personal economic advisor, and a top Treasury Mandarin as his principal private secretary. On the very same day, then Chief Secretary to the Treasury Darren Jones was shifted from number 11 to Sir Keir Starmer's camp in number 10, with the new and peculiar title of Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. Well, with all of these economic appointments to number 10, you begin to ask yourself, what is there left for Rachel Reeves to do? Wherever you turn your head in the Starmer ministry, there are admissions of failure. The Agriculture Secretary and Farming Ministers losing their jobs, economic reorganisation within the heart of government, and dodgy decisions made over Peter Mandelson. When things are going well for the Prime Minister, scandals can be ridden out. David Cameron was able to survive the departure of Andy Coulson. Tony Blair was able to weather not one but two resignations of Mandelson, as well as ministers like Keith Vaz, Stephen Byers and Robin Cook, all because other things were going well for him. In his early years, Tony Blair enjoyed the confidence of the markets thanks to his sticking to Tory spending rules. He enjoyed a booming economic inheritance, with the World Bank measuring GDP growth of 4.9% in 1997. It's when growth is at zero and your back is against a wall that people are less forgiving of mistakes, and the mistakes are more easily made in the first place. Let us for a moment take at face value Peter Kyle's defence of the shoddy appointment process of Mandelson, that the UK was in a perilous economic position.
But people have to understand that at the point of his appointment, our country was facing some really existentially challenging moments.
So it was worth the risk. So it was worth the risk of appointing a very, very close friend to the most prolific paedophile we've seen this century.
You keep saying that, Lewis, but you interviewed him in November.
I think interviewing interviewing someone is a little bit different to appointing him as ambassador. Well,
hang on.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Rumours swirl that the man number 10 was desperate to ram through as our man in Washington had not passed full MI6 vetting. Despite the furore around the birthday book revealed by the House Oversight Committee, despite a 10-page message in that book from Mandelson to his best pal Epstein, including pictures of the infamous island above which Mandelson wrote the words, "Yum Yum," despite Downing Street knowing about the emails in which Peter Mandelson defended Jeffrey Epstein in 2008 after his first conviction of procuring a child for prostitution, the weakened Prime Minister stuck by his man. Keir Starmer knows how potent paedophilia is in our politics. It's why he was so outraged by Boris Johnson's statement that he himself failed to prosecute Jimmy Savile when he was Director of Public Prosecutions. It's why Number 10 approved that soundbite that Nigel Farage was on the side of predators like Jimmy Savile over the Online Safety Act. To risk a similar charge against his own government smacks of the most desperate times. The behaviour of a desperate Prime Minister. Government of crisis, for crisis, by crisis. In no way would the problems Mr Starmer now finds himself paralysed be quite so numerous, compounding or indeed politically damaging, had people begun to feel better off in their pockets. But of course, we know we don't. An entire generation has never known real productivity growth now. Britain is today no longer a rich country. Just last week I learnt that 34% of American families now take home more than $150,000 each year. Well, by comparison, just 2 to 3% of British households earn the equivalent, £115,000 or more. What's more, British income tax at 45% kicks in at £125,000 a year. In the US, that same income level is taxed federally at just 24%. 24% versus 45%. It's a stunning statistic. Well, if we're to compare income levels, you have to go down to around £55,000 a year to find the income floor of the top 34% of British households. Well, to put it another way, today earning $150,000 or more in America is equivalent in social status, in percentage terms, to earning around £55,000 or more this side of the pond. Yes, it's true. Britain is no longer a wealthy country. But this statistic didn't come from nowhere. As I've said on these videos before, America has enjoyed impressive growth in the wake of the financial crisis. Cheap energy, a dynamic labour market, and easier access to finance has helped the US soar, while Britain has enjoyed a flatlining economy, and indeed, persistent knobheadery. Yes, that was the term that one unnamed Labour backbencher spoke about the way in which the government had been handling crisis after crisis. Now this low to no growth leads to desperate politics and sloppy mistakes. July's reported 0% GDP growth is just yet another piece in a wider stagnant puzzle of despair. The government was elected on the watchword of economic growth. Growth was to be the aim they put above all else, the solution to the country's universally acknowledged doom loop, the cornucopia to allow lower taxes and higher spending. And yet here we sit, stagnant, with nothing growing, nothing moving. It's the lack of growth and dynamism that delivers the perma-crisis we live in today. People on the economic left, or ecological green side of politics, often talk about a post-growth economy. Well, you're looking at it. When a country is growing economically, politicians can offer win-win solutions. A country can spend the spoils of economic growth on making sure more people have more. The spoils of growth can even buy off political opposition to economic reform, allowing for more growth, a positive anti-doom loop. Well, you can cut taxes, you can increase spending, you can even avoid painful tax rises if you have a growing economy. Conversely, when there is no economic growth, politics becomes a zero-sum game. If you want to spend more in one place, you have to take from another, whether that's cutting departmental spending here or raising taxes there. For any money to be spent by the government at all, people will necessarily feel worse off. For any promise to be made has to be taken from somewhere. New wealth is not being created in the system. Post-growth politics Post-growth politics is by definition the politics of envy, the zero-sum political game. It necessarily creates losers. Now, all this leads to further policy blunders. Take the debates over rights at work. Proposals for government-guaranteed rights from day one of employment or curbs on casual labour contracts only become salient because the economy is stagnant. In a buoyant economy, businesses compete for your labour with generous packages of remuneration. If you don't like one job offer, you take your labour elsewhere. 0 hours contracts aren't traps because abundant full-time jobs are available to those who want them. People feel trapped only when the economy isn't growing. Ironically, however, the very measures that are being desperately introduced to attempt to make people feel better off about the miserable state of this stagnant economy are so often the very agents of stagnation themselves. Restrictions on business practices, whether that's contracts, hiring or day one rights, they become the very agents of stagnation. They make employers more risk averse and employment too sticky. Dynamism is shot. Regulations entrench malaise, drive investment away and deepen the slump. And perversely, that stagnation then fuels the political case for even more restrictions on business. The doom loop continues. This Prime Minister is in a profoundly weakened position. It's hard to process the fact that he's been in office for just 14 months. The level of crises feels like that of 14 years. Britain feels like it's chewing through Prime Ministers faster than Italy. This doesn't happen to a country where things are going well. This happens to a country mired in crisis, bogged down in the stagnation club of nations. This is how an upstart party can soar to lead in the polls and take serious defectors, like the intellectual Tory Danny Kruger, who joined the Reform Party today. In a world where all was well economically, it's hard to see the parties of old collectively polling lower than 40%. People can feel what's wrong with this country, the bad decisions that have constantly left us in the dust. In the 2024 election, Keir Starmer deployed to great effect a cutting quote from Ronald Reagan's successful campaigns. Do you feel better off than you did 4 years ago? It got to the core of a fact most Brits don't need growth statistics, inflation figures, or international comparisons to know. They can see it with their own eyes. We're not better off than we were 4 years ago. We're barely better off than we were in 2008. The trouble is that for the Prime Minister today, with his own hand on the national tiller, Reagan's old quote can now just as easily be deployed against him. Well, I've been Tom Harwood, and this has been GB News Originals. Do get involved in the comments section down below. What do you think of our national malaise and zero growth economics? Do click that subscribe button to stay up to date in what is a crisis-ridden term for a crisis-ridden Prime Minister.